What's the worst Halloween candy that you could get in your bag?
Candy corn.
Mary Jane.
Candy corn.
Milk duds.
What is happening?
Man, I was very excited to do this podcast. That answer just went so many different directions. No, let's not get into that. Well, let's get into it.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of Strange Flavors. My name is Faraz.
I'm Neha, aka Appa.
Miss Pakistan.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Shimmer.
This is brought to you by Alif Theory. So you guys said
No,
both said
stop.
which
You stole my answer.
I did. I'm so
No,
sorry.
candy corn?
It's true
the
though.
worst.
It's true. Candy corn
okay.
tastes terrible.
First of all, yeah,
I agree.
I do agree.
I'm glad that we all agree.
Can we introduce Neha real quick? I know
Oh
you guys
yeah.
introduced
No,
I've been
she's
on the podcast.
She's a guest co-host a lot of times
Yeah,
on the
yeah,
podcast,
yeah. Okay,
so
fine,
she's back.
fine.
She's in the area.
Thank you though, Amber. I appreciate it.
Yeah, she's
The
sitting in the
acknowledgement.
guest spot, so like you
Yes,
might as well.
thank
The
you.
You just do a
acknowledgement.
Hitler sign.
No, I did fist.
Oh my gosh,
Guys,
man.
come on.
But now I'll do the Mockingjay.
All right.
Do,
Look
do,
them
do,
easy.
do.
I stole her answer because this format is still very hard for me, and I was like, I can't think. But candy corn, I do agree, is the worst.
That's the
candy.
top
I
of the
agree
list.
too.
Do you know what I
I
was
don't
talking
even
about when I said
consider
Mary
candy
Jane?
corn as a candy. That's why I was just like, oh, that's not even on the list.
Okay.
I think candy corn is
You
whack.
don't like milk duds? I think milk duds.
Milk duds are good. They just hurt your
No.
teeth.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wait, what
no.
even is milk duds like caramel?
It's
No.
caramel inside. It's
Is
like a
it?
chocolate
Oh
coating.
yeah.
Wait, but
Yes.
do you guys know what I'm talking about when I say Mary Jane?
I feel
It's
like
that,
I do.
It's that
I know
yellow
what it is.
packaging
Yes.
with that brown candy inside
Yeah,
that tastes
yeah,
so
yeah.
bad. And every person used to get it out for Halloween, like between ages like 0 to like
Is it
18.
similar to that sugar daddy one?
Sugar daddy.
Similar, yeah.
No, it's not. It's
Yeah,
not.
similar.
No, because I know what you're talking about,
Sugar
and
daddy.
that's like,
Yeah.
that's one of those like that. The
What
sugar
about
daddy
the
one.
Whoopers? The
they-
Whoppers?
Whoppers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoppers
I
are
think-
okay
love
time to
Whoppers.
time. Whoppers are okay time to time.
Kidding me?
I love
Whoppers are
Whoppers.
no. Whoppers are okay time to time.
What
I didn't
the
like them when I was
Too
younger.
sweet.
Whoppers
I
are
get tired of
so
them.
Good.
No,
It's
no.
You can have like
crunchy.
a yeah.
Literally, only ugly kids ate Whoppers.
It's okay, Shams.
They were so good, dude. I don't
I
know
was
what
an
you
ugly
got.
kid too.
They
Whatever.
were so good.
Guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode. Please be sure to, if you're enjoying this podcast, you can like us on Facebook. We're on Facebook as Strange Flavors. We're also on Twitter, Strange Flavors _
Tweet us.
These links are in the description. And if you want to email us, if you want to send us any questions, any commentary, if you want anybody to be on the show, or if you want to be on the show yourself, you can email us strangeflavorspodcast@gmail.com, and we can definitely make that happen. Soon, next week on Thursday, I gotta say that Shimmer and I are back at it with our shows. It's gonna be super exciting.
Dab.
We're gonna start off with George Mason University, and just to let you know the date, that is gonna be on the 26th, which is a Thursday. We start our performance around 8 o'clock, so if you're in the area, please be sure to show up. College Park, we're coming for you on November 9th.
I didn't even know about this one.
Which one, the College Park one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, have you
We're
guys
always doing shows. We're
increased
trying
your
to-
two tours a
Extra
year?
tours.
This is
Dang.
Tamasha
I
Tour
thought you
part,
guys had a
part
tour
3.
once
It's
a
not the
year.
Tamasha.
I know, it's moved up. They moved up in the world.
Wow.
The Wally
Dang.
tour.
Look
The
at you
Wally
guys
tour.
getting into places doing things.
Yeah, and if you want us at your school, reach out to us. Our emails are in the description. Reach out to your organizations or anything like that, and we can definitely set that up
Yeah,
for you.
we go
if you'd
everywhere
like.
except for North Korea.
No, I'm down for North Korea. I feel like they'd
That'd
be
be
down.
cool. That'd
Have
be
you seen
Fun with Louise.
No.
No?
The movie
Okay.
with Seth Rogen?
Oh
The
yeah,
interview?
yeah, the interview. Yo,
Kim
trying
Jong
to do
gets
that?
down.
Yeah, he gets
down to Katy Perry.
You think he
If we
watches
put him
Ronald
on-
Pano videos?
If we put him on Ganda Banda, like
Yo,
Oh,
we don't even know.
snap.
Like we
Yeah.
could solve this whole dilemma.
yeah.
What dilemma?
The
Oh,
the
right,
nuclear
right, right,
Yeah,
right.
dilemma.
nuclear
Right,
war,
right.
yeah.
Are you sleeping? Okay.
Hello,
No, but I didn't know how
Amber.
Ganda Banda would do
Earth
that.
to Amber.
Amber.
I just didn't know how Ganda Banda would do that. Okay.
What's up with this Mewtwo thing?
No,
Mewtwo.
no.
First of all,
First, second, and
Me
third. Okay, no, but seriously. So, Me Too. Neha, do you want to explain it? Do you want me to explain it?
you got this, Amber.
Okay, so initially I just started seeing it creep on my timeline a little bit, but then I got to looking. By looking, I mean 4 more posts, and it was basically people, well, girls specifically, who have been sexually assaulted or something similar, were writing Me Too as their status, but it stemmed from, I should have done my history check on this. It was like, it stemmed from like this one person saying it to the Harvey? Something.
Oh,
one.
Harvey Weinstein.
Sure, right. There was that
Weinstein
situation.
Company.
Whatever, right? That situation, and someone said it like it stemmed from that. And then they were like, all these women started coming out and they were like, me too, me too, me too.
So pretty
now
much
if
people
you
are quoting
see-
each other and saying like, if you were a survivor of blank
Sexual
blank blank,
harassment.
and
Or
then
like a
you, and then
victim
you
of it.
paste,
A victim, yeah.
you copy and paste that to your own status.
No, you just write
Or
me
just write
too.
me too.
And you
Hashtag
write me
me
too.
And what it does
Yeah.
is like it's kind of a awareness. Like
Yeah.
you see
Okay,
it and you're
sexual
like,
harassment
solidarity.
awareness.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, wow. It's, I mean, for me personally, I was like, whoa, I was shocked. I was, even as a woman
Like
myself.
how many people are?
Yeah, because you're just
Yeah.
reading me too, me too. And then I started reading guys write me too. And I was like, this is a bigger problem than we voice it out to be.
Right.
My one problem with it though was like, I don't know to what extent you're writing me too. I mean,
Right.
as sad as it is, it's kind of like a dilemma that we as women especially go through every day.
Right.
So it's like, if I write me too, is it because someone is catcalling, or is it because I literally went through like sexual assault or harassment? So I just don't want people to take the term lightly, and I don't know like who is putting it out there. But either way, I'm all for.
You think
like,
it's a victim party or something?
sometimes? I mean, I don't know. Like everyone defines it differently.
But is there
In
any
every
like
big
solution
movement.
put into the like?
So
if
the
you're copy
idea
and pasting,
behind
there
it is
any-
that it helps guys and just generally people understand like the
Like
gravity.
awareness.
No,
Yeah.
like the gravity of like how many people. So like
Right.
then I started seeing guys come out and be like telling other guys like, hey, pay attention. Like this is important. Like these are girls in your everyday life who are feeling like this. Now here's my thing with it is that I like the whole thing because, you know, it brings awareness, but in the brown community, we're not going to do that. And so I considered like, you know,
But it was empowering. Like I
Right,
thought
right.
about it.
And so I was considering like writing, and I was like, you know what, like people can take it this way and this way and this way and ask you questions, and then I have aunties on my Facebook, like I don't know how that will go. And then I realized that was the problem.
Yeah.
That like in our communities, that like in the brown community, like even that's an issue. Like even if you try to bring awareness to something, they're like, oh sorry, I didn't mean to switch languages. But like, you know, like
Look at that.
yeah, look at that.
Why
Like
did it
she's just
happen?
out there, and this is
Oh,
gonna
like
happen
maybe
to
she should have
her.
worn a hijab.
Exactly.
Maybe she should have
So
done
it's just
this. Maybe she
judgment.
did- yeah, and
It's
I feel
judgment.
like, you know,
hard.
like that's something in our community that we should fix.
But what do you guys think about it? Have you
As a
seen it?
boy.
Yeah, as a guy.
I mean, I think awareness is good. Like a lot of people don't realize, you know. I mean, there's not much. I don't think I can do much because like
Yeah.
I'm not a victim, but I think awareness in any form factor, even if it's like a small thing, like I've been catcalled. If it
Yeah.
affected you, then speak about it. You know.
Right.
And awareness is good because a lot of people are like, oh, you should dress up more, or you know. And there's a lot of debates on that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just interested to see like, okay, now all right, we have all these people coming out and saying it, but now what?
Yeah.
I think that's that in
awareness
enough.
is a huge part.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think
agree.
that in itself is a big part of it. What about you for us?
I second Shimmer. It's just like, if I, as a guy, it's like, I mean, it's the same thing that goes with people that aren't in, for example, the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it's just important for them to acknowledge it
Right?
and ask about it. If you have nothing to do with it, it's just important to ask somebody how they feel about it or whatever.
But I think in
And
one
yeah,
way
I
or
think that's
another,
it.
we've all been victims of like oppression or something like
Yeah.
that. So from Strange Flavors, let's say us too.
Us too.
Us too.
That's some corn.
It's okay. She
that's some
tried. She
candy
tried.
corn.
Good
I
job,
tried.
Nene.
Man.
It's unifying.
Yes.
Speaking of social media stuff, I want to bring up something. It's Worldstar. I'm gonna call out Worldstar straight up, even though I got respect for Worldstar.
Didn't you get a lot of like? I mean, like, at least a
Lot of
decent
attention.
chunk of following
He's
from
got a lot.
Worldstar.
Hey.
Whoa.
I said I respect Worldstar,
Right.
but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna call it out. Okay.
Okay.
Worldstar put me on. Yes, it was a good time. But
Who'd you fight?
huh?
Who'd you fight?
I didn't
Who'd
fight
you
him.
fight?
Chill.
Wait, tell them real quick
But-
what it was.
No, I mean, if you go on my Instagram page, you'll see it. Or if you go on Worldstar and look
Did
up
you win?
Frosty, it was me doing DJ Khaled's impression when he says, "Did the Drake vocals come in yet?" And I'm going around asking random people on the streets, and my professor, "Hey, professor, did the Drake vocals come in yet?" So that's what the video is. It's really stupid.
He made me
but-
run out on my balcony.
Perhaps.
Oh, yeah. That's true. That's true. I made Amber run out in her balcony and record that little part for me, and then I voiced it over. Anyways, so Worldstar, they like. There's a guy. Do you know who Boont Gang is?
Yeah.
Oh my
I've heard
God.
of it,
No
yeah.
idea.
So Boont
This
Gang.
is
This
so
guy
annoying.
started off. His name is Boont Gang. Okay, and he goes around and records a video of himself, like maybe in a jewelry store or whatever, and he'll be like shopping around, and then he's like, "Oh, how much is this? Oh, okay, cool. And then he runs away. He's like, "Boont Gang." and that's his thing, like
And he takes
stealing.
it?
He
Okay.
steals it.
so
That's his thing.
annoying.
And Worldstar, when they start picking up somebody's videos, they'll follow it up, and they'll be like, "Oh, look, Boom Gang back at it again." And he's doing this to like random people. He's doing it to street vendors
He's
that are
gonna
trying to
get shot.
make a living, right?
And you don't think he like returns it?
Well, okay, so this is my thing. This is where I'm going with it. Well, I don't know what he does with it, but here's the thing. Worldstar, by promoting it, they're glamorizing criminal behavior, right? And then they recently, Worldstar just put on a video of this kid. He goes inside inside a Dunkin' Donuts, and he takes a whole rack of donuts, and he goes, "Boom Gang."
That's
and
stupid.
the guy comes out. He's like an Indian dude. He comes out from behind the thing, and he's like, no, you are not stealing. You are not stealing. He locks the door behind him. And he's like, dude, it's just a video. It's for a video. And he's like, no, you have to pay for it. Because he like messed up all the donuts and like everything. And he's like, you have to pay for this. And the kid was like all like nervous now because he got put in a situation that he didn't think, like he wasn't thinking that like this was going to happen.
Well, good.
But
I'm
it's
glad
like,
he learned his lesson.
Right.
I'm
Right.
never for anything again like this. Like, when they had those pranks of them going grocery stores and like putting
Smashing
together
milk.
milk jugs and all this.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're wasting food. Or even like in the drive-thrus when they cone people. Like, I mean, it's
some
not.
of them, it's like some of them it's a little bit funny, but like doing this, especially stealing
not
from
cool.
Street vendors,
It
and
hurts
stuff.
other people. Like it
Yeah.
puts them under pressure and stress.
Yeah, exactly. And like one of the videos, there's a like Boom Gang just got out of jail, and then he goes into New York City, and
Wow.
there's a guy like on the street with a table full of like little toys and stuff that he's selling. He's trying to make a living for himself, and he like dives onto that table, breaks the table, and then takes some stuff from it and runs away. So I'm like, and Worldstar puts this on their page, and that's what I'm like. You guys are literally like
Is it
Worldstar
Worldstar's
Hip Hop.
responsibility though?
Listen, but it's Worldstar Hip Hop,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Do hip hop.
Right.
You literally move the culture. Imagine if Complex and all these other pages started promoting criminalization, like
Yeah, that would be
just
very popular.
stealing and all that, and people think it's funny. Oh, let's do that.
I mean, wouldn't you say the same thing for fights then too? Like they like make fights kind of seem cool too.
And it's
like,
wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. Like,
So you
It's
think
all
that
fun and games
Worldstar-
until like this person gets with a person that it isn't messing with this.
and honestly,
if
honestly,
they mess
it
with
makes,
the wrong person,
it makes a certain minority look really bad,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's the black race, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of
Right.
people out there, Black Lives Matter and all them, that are they're so hard to fight for their rights and everything like that. And then when Worldstar is promoting like these, just people that are fighting each other and stealing and everything, rather than the people that are doing good work, like it's gonna put
it adds to the
It also
stereotype.
promotes
Exactly.
people to like record the fights and
yeah,
not do
and not do
anything,
anything.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
which is
exactly.
crazy.
So I don't know. I mean, I was just that was crazy to me. But since we were talking about Halloween, did you guys see Happy Death Day?
I did
No,
not.
No?
I'm too scared. I probably
scared.
I probably won't watch it.
It looks like a fun movie.
It's a fun movie. That's what I was gonna say.
I turn the volume off every time the advertisements come on because I hate it.
The advertisements in the club though, 50 Cent, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, not that advertisement. The other one that's like, I'm gonna do this thing again. I don't know.
Listen, it's like Mean Girls.
Is it annoying though? Because like the trailer made it look like it's just the same day over and over and
It's
over
a little
again.
bit corny slightly, but it's like Mean Girls. It's a fun movie.
It's funny.
It's a fun movie, and like it's sorority girls, so
Okay.
you know that you're already gonna be like cringing at certain things, but it's funny because it happens to them. Like that's what they're sort of mocking it, but it's like Mean Girls, so it's a funny movie.
That's cool.
Yeah. We're gonna invite a guy onto our show today.
He was the first ever youth poet laureate.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. He was the first ever youth poet laureate, and he was like the first titled one, and now there's like three
Okay.
after him.
Cool.
But and he likes to. He's a spoken word artist. He's a poet, and let's hear from him.
Dope. Everybody, please welcome. What's his last name?
Ebert.
Ebert.
Yes.
Derrick Ebert.
While we young, we should play it hard, but we gotta look.
I don't know.
Mr. Baltimore.
Mr. Baltimore.
Mr. Baltimore.
Mr. Baltimore.
I feel like you have a like a lot of what do you call it?
Pride?
Not pride, but like
I
expectations.
True.
Okay.
Because the way that Amber has talked about you so far is just like, yo, like he knows Baltimore, like he's the poet laureate. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, the poet. I was the former poet laureate of Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean,
First.
let's just get right into that. First of all, like,
Tell us
what does
that.
that
What is it?
mean?
Yeah.
Like, why is that significant?
Being poet laureate and being youth poet laureate of the city, I was the first. There have now been 2 other ones, so 3 in total. It means that you're charged with really being the youth voice for the city. And for me, in 2015, when I was inaugurated as youth poet laureate in Baltimore City by the mayor, 2 weeks later, the uprising happened in Baltimore. So, on top of my role of being in charge of like the arts and kind of literacy in Baltimore, like literacy scene and like literature scene and whatnot, with like reaching out to youth and like going to high schools and middle schools and teaching them poetry and just talking about like community in general and talking about the things that are going on around them, that happened. So it's really, when you're youth poet laureate, you're the sum of Baltimore's youth voices, especially because you're also the closest ones to them because, you're constantly like I said, you're constantly in front of youth all the time, 24/7.
Go ahead.
Yeah, why is that? Like, are you going to high schools or something? Like,
Well,
how are you always in front of the youth?
Because, principals and teachers, and especially English teachers, want to see an upstanding young person, in front of their students, especially if, they look like you. Oftentimes we grow up in schools and we are never given our reflections. So, I can remember in middle school, even though I went to a predominantly black middle school, like the books we read were not from like black authors at all. It was often some white person, and it was like, how can I see myself in like what Mark Twain is saying? Like, to be quite honest, like what Mark Twain is saying is kind of cool, but like from my middle school mind, I didn't really give a and so I think that's why it was important, at least, and that's why youth poet laureates constantly meet with so many people, because it's like, they look like you, they're young. They can tell that you're not necessarily 30 or 40 or whatever. They perceive you differently than they
So you're in classrooms?
Often, all the time, or auditoriums.
So, like, you were talking about the Baltimore uprising, and for subjects like that, when there's moments in time when something like that happens, or recently we've had the Trump era, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it brings out a lot of artistry and subject to talk about. So what were you talking about? You said it happened before the Baltimore uprising. What was your poetry mostly about then?
Still police brutality, still everything that's always been going on in the black community. That's always been the foundation of most of my poetry has always been political. Also has focused on my identity of being a biracial person. Has also focused on, what's it like to be a biracial male and just to be a male in general. Conversations about masculinity are rarely had amongst men, surprisingly. And so, that's what most of my poems focused on. And then, the uprising happened, and it was just like a seamless transition. And it was really scary. I jumped right into it. When that happened, the mayor had called on myself as well as my 2 poetry ambassadors to meet with her and to discuss, what's going on in the city and how can we talk to the youth. I didn't, as cool as that opportunity is to have the mayor call your phone or the mayor's assistant call your phone and to personally ask you to come to her office. I did not attend that meeting. I had better things to do, which was actually like be out in the community, talking to students. So instead I sent my 2 poetry ambassadors to have that conversation with her. Poetry ambassadors. Yeah. So, I guess to explain how I became youth poet laureate, it's a slam. A poetry slam is it's a competition. Often 3 rounds, 5 judges, from a scale of 1 to 10, decimal points included. The highest and lowest points get dropped, and that's really it, almost. If you're familiar with like speech and debate or debate, it's kind of like that.
What makes one better?
What do you mean?
How do they rate it? Is it based?
So it's all subjective.
Okay.
The judges are chosen from the audience. And so I often look at slam almost like debate. You have to know your judges. If there are like 4 black judges and 1 white judge, I'm probably going to do a poem that's going to relate to the 4 black judges and the 1 white person. And, but I may pay attention to the white judge more because I'm looking at you so I can connect with you on like a human level, and maybe you'll give me an 8.5, an 8.9. But I know that like maybe the black judges may relate, whether they be male or female. I'll do poems that like will tend to something that they want to hear, something that they think might be necessary in the space I'm performing in.
What do you say to people that are like, they go to these things and they're like tired of hearing about the same subjects come up over and over again? Because if you go to different areas, you're going to get a totally different type of poetry slam. And then if you, for example, come to Baltimore, it's going to be a lot of, similar subjects about race,
Yep.
police
Yep.
brutality, and all that kind of stuff. So what do you think about that?
I think that it's one. I think that it's like that in most cities, urban cities, Chicago, New York. Like so specifically like Brooklyn and the New Yorican Poetry Cafe and multiple like different open mic venues that also hold slams. Even in California or even in like San Diego. I think that those narratives exist and exist almost all the time in those spaces. So, to say to someone who's tired of hearing those narratives over and over again, I'm just like, get used to it, because oftentimes we hear, and I've heard from peers of mine, it's like, why don't you ever write a happy poem? And it's like, I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice if I did that, because there are greater things to talk about than my happiness. My happiness is that I'm still here, that I've survived all this bullshit, or that my family, my cousins, have survived all these, bullshit encounters, or my friends have survived all these bullshit encounters. So for me, that's happiness, because I can still say that they're here. Also, it's to be like, I can't be happy when gentrification is going on in Baltimore City. I have a poem about bike lanes and how, like, why is there a bike lane running through Maryland, running through Preston? Why is there a bike lane, running through Greenmount? It's like, black people don't necessarily ride bikes in Baltimore. I mean, yeah, they do, but no, they really don't. It often looks like dirt bikes, and it goes like, man, and it's like, so it's like, who are you actually building the bike lanes for? It's not for us. It's not for the people who actually live in those communities. No, it's for the white people and the people who gentrify that area when you tear down the buildings that are there and tear down the corner stores and build up condos, just like on Greenmount as we see today.
Right.
So, it's like, how can I write about happiness when there's so much going on that I have to capture? It's almost like taking a picture. It's like, I need to capture this because this is important. Or, it's like, for me, it's a 3-minute documentary.
And what is working in the community for you? Like, why skip that mayor's meeting?
Say, what's the question?
Like you said that you skipped that mayor's meeting
to
work in the community. So what is working in the community for you? And like, if you have for example, you're talking about the bike lanes, like, wouldn't that be something to address the mayor with? And so, like, why skip that meeting?
Well, so at the time, that poem didn't come about. So like bike lanes and Stephanie Rawlings Blake, the bike lanes weren't created, I think, during that time in 2015 when I was Youth Poet Laureate. So that poem didn't come about. But in terms of skipping that meeting, it was to meet with youth. It was to meet with students to talk about what was going on and how they felt about it. Not that I could care less about going to the mayor's office to see what the mayor thinks, but I want to know really how it impacts our youth, because there's the ones that, this impacts them the most. They have to go through it every day. I'm sure the mayor doesn't have to go through racism and police brutality every single day like the youth in Baltimore City, especially if they have to deal with the police department. Especially if, I don't know, like even we saw with the Douglas students, and they were leaving, when they were leaving Frederick Douglass right by Mondawmin, and then it was like, the police were there. If we all remember that image of like police that were just suited up in armor and like riot shields, and then like kids were throwing stuff at it. It's like, how would you feel if you left school and there was like 50 police officers all just waiting? You'd feel trigger a little bit to react, to want to react. You'd be scared. And it's like, meeting with the mayor, what would that have done for me? And especially, I think I might have said this already, but after that meeting, my poet ambassadors told me that they didn't. It was a whole bunch of people in that meeting, so they didn't have a chance to really speak at all, voice their opinion. So it's like, well, why would I even be there?
Oh, so you were asked to sit in on a meeting,
well,
rather
to also,
than like to express.
Well, even to express, but
okay.
That's what we were told, was that we would be there to express our feelings on what was going on.
Because I'm trying to understand this. It's like, if there's a problem, for example, with the youth, they're addressing you a problem, like you're very hands-on with the youth, and it's like, how can we change this? Wouldn't the answer be go to the people that are causing this problem or could handle this problem better? Like, for example, if somebody who has, like Colin Kaepernick, for example, right? If he was asked to sit down with Donald Trump, I wonder if he would take that, because would that help him change his mind, or would he?
I mean, I don't think he would.
I don't even know if that would be effective.
I don't know if he would change his mind about Donald Trump, but I'm sure he would.
Not about him, but like, would he take the meeting? Would he take the meeting?
That's an interesting thing. I would say what doesn't mean that he's supportive of Donald Trump.
No, it doesn't.
So it's like, why not take that space? How often is someone even given that space to meet with Donald Trump, who like is definitely opposing the hell out of him? How often are they able to sit that close to him and be like, look, and tell him all about himself?
Right. So that's my question for you.
So why didn't I not meet with the mayor?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I felt like it's not that I opposed the mayor. I just felt like there were other things that I could have been doing at that moment.
You said that you put it in quotation marks when you said that like you would express. Do you think that it would mostly be like you as a prop? Is that why?
You mean for the mayor, being in the mayor's office?
Yeah.
Not necessarily as a prop. Oftentimes I feel like, and I guess this is the larger thing and how I feel about any like town hall meetings or things like that. You know, often there's more stories to come with that, but oftentimes when I'm in spaces, closed door spaces where we're having conversations about community and other people that, you know, that these problems affect, I'm like, well, why aren't we in those communities having conversations with those people? Why are we, let's say, like in the White House, having conversations about, which I've been invited to the White House twice, where like those conversations have happened with like politicians of like Title IX, sexual assault, school to prison pipeline. I'm like, you know, these are really nice conversations to have and important conversations to have, but why aren't we in like schools, like all of us, even though we're dressed nicely, like why can't we be in front of people, you know, people that this actually affects and have this conversation? What's the difference? Why do we have to be in the White House? Why do I have to be in the mayor's office to have this conversation? Why can't you, Stephanie Rawlings Blake, as well as everyone else at the table, go to where this is happening in Baltimore and open it up to the public? You know, not to necessarily engage, though they should be able to engage, but to have that conversation in front of everyone. You know, why does it have to be behind closed doors? I don't like that. I've never liked that.
So like we know each other because of University of Baltimore. You're like a gem of University of Baltimore. They have you plastered all over Towson Mall and Columbia Mall and everything. Big posters, your face on it. Yeah. So
as the poet laureate,
when I was youth poet laureate, I was UB marketed the hell out of me.
So much. Like they literally had a field day when they like everything, all your pictures everywhere. Yeah. Now, as you know, and you're a UB graduate now. Yes. And would you say you're a proud UB graduate?
University of Baltimore.
University of Baltimore. Yeah, University of Baltimore. The hesitation. The hesitation. No, I don't think it's a huge no. I'm trying to find the right words.
You didn't like something there.
I have a love-hate relationship with the University of Baltimore.
Okay, so you know that Betsy DeVos is coming for commencement. Yeah. Tell me your thoughts about that.
I'm not a proud alumni. I mean, so with that question, I'm not a proud alumni.
Can you talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
I mean, for everything that she stands for, and I mean, for the fact that she works with the Trump administration, but everything that she stands for, you know, of course, I oppose and I disagree with. And why her? You know, if anything, it's like, why are you inviting her out? And even if when she is there, because I've heard that it's pretty concrete and that they're not moving past their decision with that. But it's like, if they're there, are you going to punish your students if they decide to like protest it? You know, if they decide to do something wild or crazy, like how are you going? You know, how are you going to respond to your students' protests? And I think that's where we'll see the true character of University of Baltimore. Because, you know, like when she spoke at, I forgot, another school.
It was a historically black
school. HBCU. HBCU. Yeah. So when she spoke and all the kids were like shouting and saying things, and then the president was like, you know, I'm going to take your degrees away. You know? Wow. That happened. The video's out there. And I'm like, okay, like that's wild as fuck. And so the reason that they, you know, they're bringing her out and what they're standing behind is that, you know, like, we're a school that believes in free speech. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Now, since you've played the free speech card, how are you going to respond when your students decide to use that, you know?
Right back.
Right. You're giving her this platform. That's fucked up. I disagree with it. And I'm very curious to see how the school is going to respond.
So a little backstory: Betsy DeVos is the Secretary of Education of the United States right now, and she essentially stands for a lot of things that I believe personally that the students at University of Baltimore, people in Baltimore just generally would not be for. Also, she put all of her children through private education. She herself went through private education, and she believes in putting having vouchers out there for middle class families to put their kids in private education. So taking money out of the public school system to put it into private education. And so I actually went to the meeting where President Schmoke, he answered a bunch of questions, and I asked him a question directly, and I said, what will it take for your students to do and show you to make you understand that this is not something that we agree with? And now that you're aware, because many people voiced that day that they were not for it, that students will not be the way that you want like you would want to be seen, wouldn't it be more of a negative publicity for University of Baltimore when you see all these videos on Facebook of all these students turning around during their own graduation? And essentially he stated it was a publicity stunt, that in a way he said he wouldn't use the word publicity stunt, but in a way it is respectful and honorable to have the Secretary of Education at University of Baltimore. But anyways, my point being was, yes, UB, Betsy DeVos and everything. Now tell me, as you were kind of like a big fish in a small pond, tell me, like, do you feel like that was important?
I think that if I went to a bigger school, example like Morgan, which is bigger than University of Baltimore, I wouldn't have been acknowledged as much. And that is case in point to the 2 Youth Poet Laureates now after me, who are both Morgan State University students. One still is, and the other one is like a freshman or sophomore now, whatever. So yeah, they both are. And Morgan hasn't done a lot to like promote them as being, like, look, we have 2 Youth Poet Laureates. Like, we are able to produce 2 of them. Like, this is why our English department is dope. Yada yada yada. Because that's what UB did.
Right.
Was like we produced this Youth Poet Laureate, and I mean, really, the facts are, no, you didn't. My nonprofit and my mentors and my community, my community produced me. My community got me into spoken word and all of this stuff. You really didn't do anything except market me to to the larger public, and that's how I think the larger public was like, oh my God, like Derick, we have to.
That makes sense now.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think, I'm thankful.
thing.
Right. I'm thankful for you doing that, and at the same time, I'm like, but you lied. Because even on the posters, there were banners, and then there were small like posters in like White Marsh Mall, Towson, that said, I have the picture. It's somewhere on Facebook, but like we're helping Derick write his story, and I'm like, how? Like I'm like I read this. Literally, I walked in a mall and I saw myself, and then I see this, and I'm like, how are you helping me write my story? Like, no, you're not at all. None of your classes, but shout out to still some of the professors I had that are amazing. They're like, no, like, this is not true at all, in no way, shape, or form. But yeah, I mean, big fish in a small pond. UB was supportive, like the community was supportive. All my professors were supportive. A lot of my friends were supportive. But did UB do anything other than like market me? No.
You don't think it helped you catch more attention from other people?
Well, I think it did, but other than like in terms of writing,
right?
In terms of like progressing me as a human and as a poet, no. But in terms of like getting my face out there, yes, and I'll always be appreciated for that,
So now we can go into
origin
the raw
story.
stuff.
Yeah, origin story.
Let's go into the
Origin
raw
of the
stuff.
fish.
So I've only been doing this for 3 years. I've only been spoken word artist, poet, doing all the work that I've been doing in nonprofit work as well for about 3 years now, almost like 3 years exactly. And origin. When I was a freshman at the University of Baltimore, I was in this 2-year relationship that transitioned over from high school. And in my freshman year, I got out of that relationship. I was cheated on. She told me she cheated on me, but I had always known kind of, you kind of know things, especially when a relationship is about to end. And I was heartbroken. This was like my first actual relationship. It was like 2 years and maybe like 5 months. I was like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna YouTube some funny videos of like cats and dogs, because in my mind and in my body and in my soul, I believe I'm an old white woman, because an old person in general, only because like I love babies and I love puppies, and I'm like, that's just such an old white woman thing to like want to have those 2 together in like pajamas. But anyway, that's like a whole nother story. I mean, so I was like, I'm gonna do that to like satisfy my needs in my soul, and instead I found a spoken word poem, Javon Johnson's "Cause He's Black." Shout out to Javon Johnson. He's an amazing person and he's an amazing poet. So yes.
You stumbled across this video?
Yeah, I stumbled across this video.
So like as growing up, you weren't like into literature?
No, never. I hated poetry. I hated poetry in high school. Hated it. I often said to myself, like, why are we reading these dead white people? Most of them who are dead white people. I don't care about interpreting their work because it's their work and they're not here to talk about it. So like, I could say this is about whatever and I could be wrong or I could be right. But it's like, for me, it was like, it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. So that's how I looked at poetry. And even like, this goes back to the reflection part. A lot of the people we were reading, I couldn't relate to. They were talking about shit, and that's like, I'm like, I live in a whole urban city, like talking about trees and flowers and like flowers that I've never seen before. Like, I don't care. Like, talking about like, poems would be about like the the hills of Ireland, and I'd be like, I've never been, don't know what they look like, don't care. I know what Federal Hill looks like, and there's nothing special about that, Federal Hill. So it would be poems like that. So no, never cared about poetry whatsoever. But I found this poem. It was about police brutality, and it was about. He starts off talking about how him and his nephew are driving down the street, and his nephew's like maybe 4 or 5, and his nephew spots a cop car, and he says, "Oh no, uncle, we have to hide. 5-0, we have to hide." And right away, Javon starts talking about how, it's been internalized that that he's learned to fear the cops before he knows how to read. Before he knows a lot about the world, he knows that as a black person, as a black male, young kid, he needs to be afraid of the cops and he needs to hide from them. And that's fucked up to be 4 or 5 and know that already. And so that poem, I watched it twice and it made me cry twice because I had never seen and heard anything so beautiful and anything that connected to me on that level before. And so immediately right after that, I was like, I can do this. I can write a poem. I got this. And it came out as something crappy. And I don't know, I kept it in my journal, but I continued to write, that kind of started me writing. And then I would always often post poems on Facebook. And, eventually I went to the first open mic that I went to. It was one of my homeboys. He was a rapper. And, when he called me up to perform, the open mic, you get called up it's a list and you get called up. And I remember when he called me up, I got up and I walked towards the door and I walked out. I walked right out of the open mic as soon as he called
your name?
Right as soon as he called my name, he was like, "And next up to the stage, Derick Ebert." And I was like, everybody like, "Woo!" And I got up. I turned towards the door and I pushed the door open. I walked. You were nervous? Oh my God. I thought I was going to pass out. I was going to stand up and I was going to drop back into my seat. Wow. Or I was going to look around like, who that? Who's Derick Ebert? I was cold feet. I never understood men get cold feet during for weddings or whatever. Yeah. I'm like, this is what this must feels like. Wow. Because I was, oh my God, extremely nervous. I drove home that night in silence. Wow. Literally, I didn't speak at all.
How long after your first poem, I guess you wrote, was this?
Maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Okay. But yeah, I drove home in silence and I told myself, I made a promise to myself that I would never, ever, ever do that again. And then I don't know if you ever had Tree Turtle as a professor at the University of Baltimore. No.
His name is Tree Turtle?
Tree Turtle.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tree Turtle.
Is that what is that significance?
Is that his last name or?
I think Tree Turtle, Professor Turtle. We also his last name was spelled
His first name was Tree?
Tree Turtle. Tree Turtle.
Is he Native American or something?
No. Black guy. Tree Turtle. That's cool. And look, Google him, Google Goucher and Tree Turtle. And
I think if I Google Tree Turtle, I'm gonna get a bunch of turtles and
that's
trees.
At the same time. But his name was Tree Turtle, and he was an adjunct at UB. He was also a professor at Goucher, and he knew Trevor and I well. We had his class, and he knew that I wrote poetry, and so he invited me out to his open mic. And this was then my first time performing at an open mic. And the really cool part was that one of Def Jam's producers, often people think of Def Jam, think of Russell Simmons, and how he started Def Jam, and he did, but he also had co-producers. And so one of the co-producers of Def Jam was there, and he was going to speak to the students after the open mic. But I went, I got to meet the producer, I got to perform in front of him, and it was such a humbling experience. And the poem I read was received so well by the whole audience, and Trevor was there. He had drove me there, and it was just amazing. It was almost, the open mic, the room was about the size of this room, and but it was maybe 50 people just crowded on top of each other, in chairs, sitting lapped up and everything. It was crazy. I was like, wow, it's a lot of people in this small ass room, but it was definitely it was an amazing experience. And then right afterwards, after everything was over, he came up to me. He was like, you have something special about you. You have this light about you. Continue writing, and you'll find yourself somewhere. And I'm like, wow, okay.
And where are you at now? How far can you go with this poetry stuff?
Oh, I'm going to continue it for the rest of my life. Now, he did say, I've already produced them. Yeah, I'm a published author. Nice. To mention that, Black Boy Archaeologist is the name of my chapbook. But right after I'm done my MFA, I'm going to probably publish the second book of poetry. This one, I'll submit to awards, the National Book Award, or really you don't submit it, or maybe you do. I don't know how that works yet, but I'll submit it for awards and things like that. And I would hope I would get nominated for the National Book Award or something. I don't know how that works, but I'm putting it out there so that I can receive those blessings one day.
And now you're giving a TED Talk.
And now I'm giving a TED Talk. You know,
Right.
that's something I've always asked for. God, universe, higher power, whoever you know.
I feel like
language
that's
you
something
describe
on a
for.
lot of people's
Yeah.
lists. Like
Right.
one day I
Yeah.
want to give a TED Talk. One day I want to be on Ellen. Like
I used to
that's
say
one of
that
those.
all the time to myself in middle school. Not even about anything. I'd be like, I want to do a TED Talk so bad. Like, that's so cool. I would listen to TED Talks all the time as a kid. And then, like, high school, I would listen to TED Talks. And then, like, you know, in college, we always, like, watch TED Talks and learn something from them. And I was like, one day that's going to, I always kept saying, one day that's going to be me. One day that's going to be me. One day that's going to be me. And then out of nowhere in May, you know, I was asked. Not that I went. I didn't seek, but I was asked
That's awesome.
to speak for University of Baltimore's TED Talk. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, you see what happens? You know, you continue to ask and, like, you receive.
What are you talking about?
So that's the interesting part. I am extremely, like, good at doing things last minute. I have an idea about what I want to talk about. The name of my TED Talk is Be a Kid Again. Oftentimes,
like it.
you already like it. That's what's up. Oftentimes, you know, I think as we get older and we become adults, we lose our imagination. And when I think about the work that I do in the you know, how I often consistently write poems, but even how I live life with a vivid imagination. And it's for me, it's this world building, like, theory or idea where it's like you can become whoever you want to become despite your circumstance. And some people's circumstances will be harder than others, but you could become whatever you want to become as long as you imagine that. And I tell my students this all the time. I'm also a teacher, or was a teacher in Baltimore. I taught at two schools, Patterson and Baltimore Leadership School for Young Women. But I often told my students, like, you know, if you want to be a poet, well, imagine, well, what does that look like? What does a poet do? Well, I have to write poems consistently. You know, I should probably attend an open mic, see what those are like. You know, it's only obvious. You know, I might want to read poems. You know, I might want to watch some spoken word videos. You know, I might want to get in the scene. And that's the springboard. You know, it's not that hard to imagine yourself as a different character. Even if it's something like, I want to be Batman. It's like, well, how do I become Batman? I got to wear tights. You know, I got to probably weightlift. Like, you know, it's simple things. It's like crazy. Right. It's like, that's odd. Like, you're weird as but it's like, I want to imagine the person I'm going to become. You know, I don't think that things are necessarily already written down for us. Like, our destinies are not written in stone. I believe that we are all handed cards, which is like, you know, you might be born into poverty or you may be born into wealth. And that's just the card you're given when you know, you're born and when you wake up every single day. But, you know, you can imagine yourself as something, you know, reinvent yourself. You don't have to be the person that, you know, works at McDonald's, you know, not if you don't want to be. You just let that, you know, you let yourself fall into that. But, you know.
How do you prepare for a TED Talk, though?
So I prepare like how I write my poems. I kind of have things in pieces, and I'm gonna structure that narrative in kind of the same way this podcast is going. You know, probably I'll start off with a poem, but talk about how I've crafted myself to become the person that I want to be today. How it was never written anywhere. How I hated poetry. How, you know, I hated public speaking. How all these things. But then I took debate. Debate made me good at public speaking. You know, I always participated in class. Little that builds up to building a bigger platform. You know, being a keynote speaker at like high school events. Little that builds up to this platform of a TED Talk, which is a huge platform, right? You know,
you're making this so hard for me to edit, bro.
I'm sorry. I can't cuss.
It's cool.
I can't cuss.
Yeah.
But
it's all good. It's all good. If that's you, it's you.
If it's you, it's you.
I low-key don't even want you to cut it out, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Just
it's
ready
all
to
good.
explicit.
I don't cut it out when it's like
In
I don't
context.
know. In context.
Yeah.
It's all good. Continue being you.
You ruined the mood.
It's okay. I'll keep it noted. But so that's a lot. But that's a lot of what I want to cover in my TED Talk is like this idea of reimagining yourself. You know, kids do it all the time. You know, they're like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer, you know, or I want to be like Harry Potter. I mean, I can remember, don't tell Trevor I told you the story, but like as kids, you know, Trevor's my twin brother.
His
My
twin brother.
Oh,
So,
I didn't know you had a twin.
Yes.
Is he a poet too?
No, he's not a poet, but he does write raps. He be writing raps.
What?
Trevor's actually a good writer, and he will like. I've been like, yo, like this is dope. Go to an open mic, and he'll be like, nah, man, this is your thing. And I'm like, Trevor, go to an open mic. Like, no, Trevor can actually. He can write. He can write.
No way.
Yeah, he can write. Yeah. But I don't know if he still writes. But like when I was starting off with, I'm getting away from.
Does he go around like if your posters are all over like Baltimore? Is he like, yeah, that's me?
Or does he get
What's
jealous?
No, but people did think it was him all
Yes.
over the mall.
Are you guys
like, all the
identical?
pictures.
I can show you a picture.
Before the hair.
Yeah, before the locks and before he has like high top, he has a high top fade.
Oh, okay.
If we just had like regular like buzz cut, like
okay.
And
haircuts.
that's how I met them. Do you know how hard it was at first to distinguish them? I have a twin question. Is it appropriate now for a twin question?
I feel like we
Talking
talked
about twins.
I feel like we talked about so much. Like but it's all good. Go ahead. I mean, I'm open for any question.
This
Okay.
is how Amber works.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. I have an interesting fact.
Okay.
So you were born first, right?
Yeah, 6 minutes before
So
him.
do you know you're actually younger? Did you know that? Because apparently the one who's born second is actually older. Did you know that?
I would need to see the research
What's
on
counted?
I thought you were gonna say I
older?
would need to see the receipt.
What's counted as older?
That too.
Like
Like formed first.
formed first.
Well,
I thought it was when you're released first.
first, yeah.
I don't know. I
That's what I'm saying. Like
I thought
Boy,
it
am
was
releasing them, they're pulling them out.
I thought it was too, and then
Release the first one.
release the crack. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I don't know.
God.
I
I
thought that
thought
was
so too, but then a doctor told me otherwise. So I don't know.
I mean, obviously doctors are gonna say like, oh yeah, technically.
And
Doctors are liars.
I feel
and
like I
then
act older though.
confirmed it. No, you definitely act older.
Okay, let's
than-
get that on record. Like, don't edit that out.
Okay, but like, is there any like? Do you think? Can you think of like good and bad things that come out of being a twin, like pressure or anything like that?
Comparisons. People often want you. So even when I became Youth Poet Laureate, you know, I forgot who said it, but he was
You're jealous.
not jealous. No, not jealous.
Okay.
But people would say like, "Oh, well, like I'm sure you're doing good things as well,"
Oh.
and like that would
Yeah.
suck.
Yeah,
like
that
that would suck. And like I'm like, but you are doing good things, and he'd be like, "Yeah, but I'm not doing your things."
Yeah,
I'm
Trevor's
like,
like
but
really into politics. He's into
Exactly.
he's into like the hands-on work.
exactly. So I think it's that comparison of, and
that
I
could
mean,
go with siblings though.
that
like,
could go with
that's not
siblings.
just
That even goes
twins.
with like friends and my poetry friends. So I'm like, but
Right.
you're opening up for this artist, and I'm like, but Derick, you have a TED Talk. I'm like, yeah, but you're opening up for like someone who's been on the radio and like whatever, like
Yeah,
shit like
comparisons.
that.
It's mainly
Comparisons. It's mainly comparisons. So I think like that's a negative. Is that not often we often compare ourselves to each other with like successes and like mostly success. But then other people compare us or will measure the stick of like, well, you
Right.
must be smarter. And it's like, no, we're both equally brilliant people. We boost each other up. And I mean,
Right.
Trevor and I are so competitive. For like our first 2 years at UB, we had all the same classes, and we were like
At the same times too.
at the
right?
same
You guys
time.
took
See,
the
oh yeah,
same
we had
classes
this
together.
yeah, same
that's
classes
fun.
together. Oh, it's
That's
fun.
crazy.
But we
So
like
you get like a lifelong friend.
yeah, right.
That's awesome.
But it was fun one because it's like we're gonna like f- with the professor, but at the same time it was like we're gonna compete with each other to get A's. And
That's dope.
for those 2 years, I mean, we had stellar GPAs. I mean, I'm sure he still has a stellar GPA, and I graduated with 3.5. So like yeah. Yeah, but so the negative would definitely be comparisons, but positive is always like we just boost. It's always a race to see like whatever.
Right.
We just want to we gonna win.
What'd you guys major in?
So we were psychology majors, and then we switched. I was like, we were doing poorly in our IO psychology class because of statistics, and I'm like, yep, this ain't for me. And he was like, yep, this ain't for me either. I was like, well, I'm gonna go over here and major in English, and he's like, I'm gonna go over here and major in political science. I'm like, all right, this is it. No more classes together.
Oh.
Peace.
I'm glad you guys did different majors.
Yeah.
I feel like then it lets you learn from each other.
Yeah, and we
rather
also
than-
grow into our own identities.
Yeah,
with that.
that's
Yeah.
cool. Are you always gonna be in Baltimore or are
He's
you
in New York.
So I'm in New York right now.
Okay,
Ooh.
I'm getting my master's in poetry at Sarah Lawrence College in Yonkers, New York.
Whoop, whoop.
nice.
So shout out Sarah Lawrence, shout out New York City. Sauce. I like to say sauce. I'd be going to all of my people would be like, sauce, and they'd be like, that's not a New York accent. I'm like, it is to me. But no, so when I graduate from Sarah Lawrence, I do plan on returning to Baltimore, maybe within 3 or 4 years. I want to teach here. I want to, I want to be a professor here. I want to still do the nonprofit work that I do. I want to teach poetry still in schools. I still want to perform here in Baltimore. I mean, I still do perform in Baltimore, but, I just want to do so much for my city. Because we said at the beginning, I'm passionate about this place. You
Why?
know? Because there's so much talent, and Baltimore gets such a bad rep. And I mean, literally today, I was at one of my cousin's friend's house, and like, oftentimes people might see them as like hood people, but what I see and literally what was going on was like the person he was working on beats, he was producing, but he also raps over those beats. I was like, man, like put one of them on, like let me hear it, and it was tough. It wasn't trap music. It was like some old Kanye West soul beats.
I heard it. It was good. You posted on Facebook.
Yeah, I posted
right?
on Facebook,
Yeah.
and I'm like thinking to myself, and I was like, and I was telling him, like, we were vibing. I'm like, yo, somebody needs to sing over this. He's like, I'm looking for somebody. Who do you know? I'm like, I'm gonna put it out there for you, like, cause I want to see you do well. A lot of people here in Baltimore have talent, even the dirt bike riders. You know, there's like a small documentary of some female, some woman who's like Queen something, I forgot what they call her, but like over here, literally on this side of town, who like is like good at riding dirt bikes. I'm like, that's a talent to like pop wheelies and whatever. I'm like, that's a talent. You know, y'all see, or people see reckless black kids riding dirt bikes through Baltimore, but I'm like, I see people who could crush anybody at the dirt bike competitions, or like, what are they called?
X Games?
Yeah, X Games. But I'm like, that's what I see. I'm like, you give them a chance.
Or
you
a
give
Meek
them,
Mill music video.
but I'm like, you give them a chance, they can do anything.
Right.
You know, I see that in my city. People in this city have talent, and you know, but oftentimes I think the school systems and just in general the city doesn't acknowledge that and doesn't give them the resources to help them, you know, develop themselves. And so that's, for me at least, where I think I can come in with like being an artist, but also just being someone who developed themselves as like hated. I'm sorry, I hated freaking poetry in high school, and never saw myself becoming a poet, never saw myself becoming a public speaker, whatever. And then molding myself into that, saying, you know what, I'm gonna face fear in its face, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna see what can come out of it, and like molding myself to this person that I am today. Never. In high school, I would have laughed at you. Like, yo, one day you're going to be a poet. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm going to be a lawyer. Like, but no, I'm totally a poet.
But before we started recording the podcast, you were talking about you're going to Texas. What are you doing in Texas? I feel like there's a poetic story there about Texas. Why are you going to Texas?
Let me sip my green tea.
Uh-oh.
That explains a lot.
So, no, it's really nothing drama related.
Okay.
I'm going to visit my ex-girlfriend, who's really just, I don't even like to say ex-girlfriend. I like to say friend now, because that's what we agreed to be. I mean, what do y'all want me to like go into that story of like I just got a relationship?
I mean, you just made it sound like it was something juicy.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean, it is like juicy, I guess. I mean, it's, the only juicy thing about it is
sauce.
The sauce. The only thing juicy is like I'm single now. Like that's the only juicy thing. But no, I was in a 3-year relationship, and I found myself
after the 2-year relationship.
Right. But yeah.
So you're a poet while you're dating this girl.
Yes, okay. Yes. So, and she's a dancer. She's a classically trained dancer. That's why she's in Dallas. She grew up in Baltimore. She went to Towson University. Shout out Aja Shaw.
Shout out me.
Shout out you. Hey, shout out you. Shout out you. So no, we were in this 3-year relationship, and I found myself committing more to my art and my craft and my schooling more than I could to my relationship. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I mean, it was nothing harsh or personal or rough, but it's like I can't be the boyfriend I want to be for you. And like that's nothing personal, but it's like I can't.
Oh, this isn't the one that cheated on you?
No. See, so not much juicy. It's just more so like I handled
like
this. Right. And
so you guys are good enough friends that you're gonna go visit her. And
yeah. I mean, it literally just happened this week, and I already booked like the plane tickets to visit her. So it's gonna be weird, you know. Is
this your first time like after she's been an ex now? Like first time single?
You said you
talking
guys
to her?
just broke up this week?
We just we just broke. I've been in this 3-year relationship. Yeah. I haven't seen her since August 13th. We literally just broke up 4 days ago.
Oh. And then you decided to go see her.
Well, no, I've been both. We're like, I'm seeing you this date or from Saturday to Wednesday. I've been said that in like September. Okay. When we were in a relationship. So, and to answer your question, I was in a 2-year relationship. Then when I got cheated on, and then I dated, and then I found Aja, and then 3 years later, back to just being single. Nice. Yes. You're
a cool dude, man.
Thank you.
Inspirational, dude. Keep repping Baltimore.
Right.
Is there any? We just reached about an hour, so
Word.
We gotta wrap up. But is there any sort of like final remarks or anything you want to leave for everybody listening right now?
Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. So Facebook is just Derick Ebert, Derick Ebert.
Like
friend me, yes, like friend me. Did I say follow?
No, I mean, I thought
if you had a Facebook page or
something. Oh, no, I don't have a Facebook page. Just add me as a friend. I'm so close to reaching that 5,000 where you become a page or
Wait,
you
then
can't.
why don't you just...
Oh, that's the thing?
Page.
Well, no,
Yeah.
Wait, make a fan page. What are you doing?
I'm going to wait till I get to that 5,000.
No.
He wants friends.
I want friends first.
Yeah.
Okay, but they
exactly.
can follow your personal page.
He wants friends.
I will. Trust me,
All
I will.
right.
I don't feel like I'm there yet.
Okay.
And then Twitter is just at Derick Poetry. I don't have an Instagram. Instagram scares me. Twitter scares me.
Whoa.
Snap scares me.
You could do
I'm
a
an
lot
old
on
man.
Instagram, bro.
Send
I
them,
know,
send
but
them
I'm-
to
You're old.
Amber, and we'll link them up in the description.
Word.
Yeah. Is
Word.
that cool?
Yeah, definitely.
Shimmer.
Shimmer.
Hit him with the last question.
All right. So if you were any flavor, what flavor would you be and why?
Root beer is my favorite. I mean, if that's like a legitimate, like, I don't know if you're saying
If you can
flavor,
explain.
No,
lollipop.
like if you had to
Doesn't matter.
describe
Yeah.
yourself in a flavor,
Oh, if I had to describe myself in a flavor,
what would it be and why? Or that sauce?
what that sauce? Szechuan. No, y'all watch Rick and Morty? No.
We
okay.
talked
had
about
a
last
whole
week.
thing about the
Szechuan
sauce.
Nah, I think I'd be what's that barbecue sauce? Sweet Baby Ray's.
Okay.
I'd be Sweet Baby Ray's. I'd be like spicy and tangy.
Why is that?
What's the last word you're saying? Sweet baby what?
Sweet Baby Ray's is
Yeah.
Ray's?
Ray's.
company.
It's a company.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a barbecue sauce. I
Okay.
feel like sweet and tangy, you know, like
Okay.
like I can be all like adorable and like whatever and be like, oh, like, you know, like whatever, like, oh, he's so adorable and cute, but then like tangy because I'm like, champagne poppy
Sass.
Drake, you know, like I got the sass, but also got like the, you know, I just got the comebacks, you know, be like, you know, what's good, you know, like, yeah, like
I like that
tangy
you compared that to Drake because that
Yeah.
sounds exactly what Drake is.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
he's like very cool on the surface, but then it's like don't mess with him.
Yeah, like I mean, if you watch if you watch Drake's interviews, it's like, yo, like when you rap, you seem kind of intimidating, but if you watch his interviews, he's like the coolest person ever. He's just all happy and stuff. But yeah, so Drake, basically Drake. If I had to be a flavor, I'd be Drake. Whatever Drake says, that's that. Yeah.
Baltimore, this has been Derick with you.
It's been Drake.
Thank you. I was about to say Drake. I was about to say Drake. Sweet and saucy, Derick. Thank you for joining us. And we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
And thank you all for listening to another episode of Strange Flavors.
Yeah, that was tough.
Goodbye.
Yeah, I know me. Do I know you? It's a new me. Same old you. When we in the spot, just watch how we move like fuck. Net, set, groove. Yeah, I know me.